I don't know if the camera can pick it up. It sounds like taiko drums. What did I read today? It was kind of fascinating reading this piece. It talked about things like with the upcoming drone regulations here in Canada, I guess how there's a division between some professionals where some say it's good and some say more needs to be done. This one here says, updated drone regulations get mixed reaction from PEI businesses. So from one perspective, I guess from a guy who runs things like a retail shop, it says, operation managers of Great Hobbies in Charlottetown said while he's happy to see an emphasis put on safe flying, the rules feel too heavy-handed. Quote, there's a lot of people that will change how they enjoy their hobby, and unfortunately, it might mean some people won't continue with the hobby. The amount of work it takes to get necessary licenses will dissuade drone users who would otherwise be safe flyers. And he even mentions specifically saying the store has seen a decline in sales of drones and other remote controlled aircraft ever since they were announced 2 years ago. I'm guessing he's talking about the interim orders, not the actual rules that we're going to have in the summer. And then there's the other perspective of professionals who say it's fantastic and they should do more. This one says, Lee Dawson owns a videography and aerial drone business based in Summerside and has worked with drones for over 10 years. He said he's been anticipating the new rules for the last few months and is happy to see that what has been put in place. Having to do an online test and having to certify yourself as an approved pilot to be able to use a drone means you have to have at least read the regulations and you have to at least read basic aviation communications, he said. Dawson said too often he sees people operating drones illegally or dangerously. And here's kind of the crazy part. He says here, Dawson said he would like to see drones weighing under 250 grams be bound to Transport Canada's regulations. Currently, anything lighter is exempt. And he says, quote, they can cause havoc, they can invade privacy. To see these small drones flying around, I think we're going to see a lot more of them and cause a bigger problem than first thought. Dawson added that there should be a push for more education around the rules and that as they're listed now, regulations can seem unclear to unprofessional drone flyers. Quote, people could still be unknowingly breaking the law unless they really understand and read those regulations. Okay, for things like safety and all that and rules, I don't think I need to go into it. If anyone's interested, you can watch the previous videos where I clearly demonstrate a lot of those questions that they have nothing to do about safety and all that. I'm just wondering, how can a professional drone pilot per se, working all these years, actually fall into that stigma of, oh man, these things can invade your privacy and all that, so they need to be regulated. Like, you should know as a drone flyer and operator, that's ridiculous. Trying to claim like these little tiny drones are gonna spy on people and all that. You know how noisy they are and how close you have to get to people to quote spy on them? Although to be clear, he doesn't specifically say spy, he just says invade your privacy, but that's what most people would say with things like drones, things like cameras, like noise, hey, this is my spot, even though it's a public space and all that. And trying to like regulate under 250 grams too with the way things are, it's so ludicrous in that sense. Again, from a professional, it makes me wonder, what are you thinking? Are you just thinking about yourself? Like for me, I don't fly things like racing and FPV drones and stuff like that at the moment. But can you imagine some guy just flying here right now? They're flying no higher than maybe 1 meter in the air or something like that, just going through like these little courses for fun. Like that is illegal? You expect that to be regulated? That's insane. It's just an opinion, of course, but it just makes me wonder what's worse at this moment for things like this. People who like are uneducated about it, which is understandable. I mean, not everyone's into it, so they're not going to be able to necessarily be able to understand everything from the inside. But when you have like people that claim they've been doing this for like over 10 years and all that, and then you have this mentality of, yeah, they should regulate things like these little toys and stuff too. That's just insane. I mean, so far just from my experience, even when talking to people, when you start relating it with things like cars and stuff, that's when they have no answer for it. Like I said, for example, people would often say, oh yeah, it's the airspace and so forth. You should regulate it, it's in the air, the smallest thing can be regulated. But then you start using things like the road analogy and stuff like that, people have nothing to say. Like for example, yeah, it's the road. Does that mean everybody needs to abide by the exact same rules and stuff like that? A pedestrian, a bicycle rider, they need car license? No. Although the sad thing is, it almost makes me wonder if a lot of people are just saying that, like say the professionals who have apparently been doing it for years are just saying that to cater to the majority so they get more business. I mean, is that too mean to say? But oh, I don't know. When someone should be educated about like the hobby, the general tech, I think they should be doing more to educate people not to be so afraid about it, because in general there isn't that much to be afraid about it. Things are going to happen, okay? Like in life, it's more about how do you deal with it. You should have all those precautions in place. Man, can you imagine that? If we had things like, for example, I don't know, computers. They're so afraid that anyone could just sit in their home and hack like a website or something like that. Because of that, everything needs to be federally registered. You need to have some kind of, I guess, certification to use the computer, understand programming languages, something ridiculous. Actually, one funny thought about education and stuff like that, while I agree people need to be educated, I think one thing that's overlooked, it's not just people who fly, like say those drones that need to be educated, it's everybody in general. The general public, people who make the laws, because it just seems like people's idea of what a quote, I guess, drone is and all that is so isolated to just what they see in the media. Like again, I don't fly things like racing drones and stuff like that, but even I know when you make like a law and stuff like that, it has to cater to everybody. Overall, in my opinion, with the way things are currently written, it's really silly for people who build their little tiny drones to either race for fun or just, I guess, to experiment with flight. Kind of makes me think of this drone I read about way back where it's literally a Lego drone. Like you build a drone on a Lego, I guess you put like a motor in there or something and you fly it for fun because the idea is, hey, you can crash it or whatever, just like rebuild it and try it again. Like in my opinion, that probably encourages people to take, I guess, things like flight and all that a little bit more seriously, maybe if they grow up. To say things like that, for example, under 250 grams need to be regulated, it just makes me wonder what kind of, quote, professional experience people have. This would have been a nice little spot here to take off. It's way more than 30 meters away from everything and all that. But it's a dog area apparently, so yeah, better not. Alright, see you guys later.